It was late at night when this all happened. I was walking home after I had just dropped my girl off at her house after we had just finished our date. I'm a 14-year-old boy, in case you were wondering, living in a small town in the middle of Montana. It was a relatively quiet place. Sure, it was peaceful, but it was really boring. Nothing really happened here. But then, out of the blue, this new girl moved to town. Her name was Britney, and she was a short, black-haired girl with red rosy cheeks and amazing amber eyes. She was the most beautiful person I had ever seen. I had to talk to her. I was really a shy kid, especially when it came to pretty girls. But when I saw Britney for the first time, it was different for some reason. I wanted to talk to her so badly. One day I worked up the courage to talk to her. My heart was pounding in my chest, but I pushed myself not to back down. I opened up with a small joke, hoping to get her to laugh. I was nervous as hell, and it was a really stupid joke, but I guess it was funny to her because she laughed at it, or she was being nice and just trying to humor me. But whatever the case, it worked. After that, we started talking more. We were getting along really well for a while, and had even started to hang out after school for a couple weeks now. I really liked this girl, and I finally worked up the courage to ask her out on a date. I was so excited when she said yes. We settled on going to the movies for our first date that Sunday. I couldn't stop thinking about it all week. I was so nervous and so excited. The night of the date came around, and everything was going great. We sat down in the theater, eating popcorn, and watched the film. She even rested her head on my shoulder. I was in heaven at that moment, and couldn't be happier. After the movie was over, we exited the theater to see that it was late in the night. She said she was going to call her parents to come pick her up, but I offered to walk her home, to be a gentleman, and to earn a few extra brownie points. I also wanted to spend more time with her. She happily agreed. The movie theater wasn't that far from her house, and neither was mine, so it was an easy walk for the both of us. We continued to talk all the way to her house, and I was liking this girl more and more. I honestly couldn't believe that this amazing girl was interested in me at all. She liked almost everything I was into, and was a member of the soccer team. Soccer wasn't my favorite sport, but I think I have a reason to get into it now. We were now walking up the steps to her front porch, and just stood in front of her door. I wanted to say something more, but I couldn't find the words, and just stood there awkwardly. She thanked me for a great time, and was about to open her door, when I finally spoke up. "Would you like to go out again sometime?" I asked nervously. I don't know why I was so nervous. Maybe it was just because this girl was so amazing, and that she wouldn't want to hang out again. But she smiled at me and giggled. "I would love to." She then stepped closer to me and kissed me on the lips. I was frozen where I stood. Of all the things to happen, this was the last thing I expected. I must have looked ridiculous because as soon as she pulled away, she giggled again. It was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. She opened the door and wished me goodnight before disappearing behind it. All I could think about was that kiss. After what felt like forever, I finally walked down the stairs with the biggest grin on my face and began walking home. My house was only a few blocks away, but all I could think about was Britney. The sound of her laughter whenever I made a stupid joke. The look in her amber eyes when I asked her out again. I will never forget that. I was honestly very happy then, but as I turned around the corner, I began to notice something. It was very quiet, more quiet than any other night. There were no birds, no crickets, not even the sound of cars driving on the roads. I looked around and noticed that all the houses were dark, which was odd because it was still relatively early, too early for everyone to be fast asleep. I was startled when the street light I was standing under began to flicker. For as long as I can remember, that never happened before. I tried to ignore it and continued walking towards my house, but it happened again. When I walked under another street light, then another, then another. I tried to tell myself that it was just faulty wiring or some short circuit, but then all the lights went out at once. Now it was pitch black. Not even the moon was shining in the sky. My heart was pounding in my chest as I stood alone in complete darkness. I took out my phone to get some light, but when I tried to turn it on, it didn't work. A battery must have died during the movie. My house was only a straight shot from here, but I didn't want to move for fear of tipping and hurting myself or something. Then suddenly, a light shined from behind me. I quickly turned around to see that one of the street lights from behind me had turned back on. It was about 3 streetlights away from me, but it was dimly lit. But I was just happy to have some light again. However, when I turned around to head back down the street, I heard something from behind. It was footsteps, but not my footsteps. I turned back around but didn't see anyone there. Nothing but that streetlight. I kept my eyes towards the light, but I still couldn't see anyone. I was about to turn back around when I finally saw something. A tall, black hooded figure had just stepped into the light. My blood turned to ice when I saw him. His hood was over his head so I couldn't see his face. I wanted to turn away, but I couldn't move. I wanted to shout, but I couldn't speak. I was petrified. He was just standing there under the light. There was no possible way that he could see me in the darkness, but I could feel his eyes directly on me. Every fiber of my body was telling me to run, to get back home where it's safe, but I still couldn't move. All I could do was stare back at him. My heart was beating faster and harder in my ears with every moment that passed, but still, he did not move. Then suddenly, he took off, sprinting towards me. I was finally able to gain control of my body and took off towards my house. I ran as fast as my legs could carry me as I could hear the sound of his feet right behind me. I looked back towards him and saw that he was even closer now, and he looked even taller. I wanted to scream, but my voice was still lost. All I could do was run. I didn't know how far my house was, but I didn't care. I just kept running. I looked back once again. This time he was even closer and taller. His body was skinny, and his arms were long, but I could see nothing else from him. I pushed myself harder and sprinted the other way. My lungs and legs were on fire, but I refused to stop. I pushed onward until I finally noticed something. A small candle in the windowsill of my house. My mother always placed a candle there whenever I was out at night so I could find my way home, in case the power ever went out. I couldn't tell you how much I loved my mother at that moment. I was almost home. I took one final look behind me, and I wished I didn't. The man was much closer to me, but he wasn't a man anymore. Whatever it was much taller than any man I had ever seen. Its arms were flailing as it ran towards me, but what I noticed more were its fingers. They were long and came to a point, looking more like claws. I finally found my voice and let out a loud scream. I was in my front yard now, and practically jumped over the stairs and opened the door. Fortunately, my mother has a terrible habit of not locking the door behind her when she was out. She said it was in case I ever forgot my keys. I would always tell her about how unsafe it was, but I couldn't be more grateful. In that moment, as I pushed the door open and slammed it shut behind me, I locked the door and pressed my back to it. I instinctively flipped the switch on and was welcomed by the warm light of my house. Finally feeling safe, I moved to the window to see if that creature was still out there, but what I saw were the lights from the streets. Even a few houses had their lights on. I looked around my living room, wondering what the hell just happened. Was it all just a hallucination? But from what? Maybe it was all just some sort of prank. A really good one too. I then felt my phone vibrate in my pocket. I took it out to see it was a text message from my mother. Had to step out for a bit. I'll be back soon. There's some pizza in the oven for you. I'll see you when I get home. Love you, Mom. I was so confused. My phone wasn't working a minute ago, but now here I was getting a text message from my mother. I was still out of breath from that whole ordeal, but I was home now and safe. I texted my mother to let her know that I was home now, but I didn't tell her anything else. How could I? I didn't believe it all myself. I tried to put the whole thing out of my mind as I went into the kitchen and grabbed myself a couple slices of pizza. After heating it in the microwave, I went upstairs into my room and turned on the TV. After what had just happened, I was in the mood for a nice calm movie. I put on my old favorite movie and ate my pizza in peace. When the movie was almost over, I heard my phone go off again. It was another text message from my mom. Hey, honey, could you give me a hand? Downstairs. I turned off the TV and headed downstairs. I called my mom's name, but she never answered. I looked around the house, but she wasn't there. That's weird, I thought to myself. She just texted me a minute ago. Suddenly the lights went out, causing me to scream. It was pitch black now. I tried to find my way around the house. As my eyes began to adjust, I noticed a small light. It was my mother's candle, but it wasn't in the windowsill, it was in the kitchen. I slowly made my way towards the candle, the memories of tonight's event flooding my memory. My heart was pounding fast with every step. I jumped when I felt my phone in my hand vibrate. It was another text message from my mom. Sorry. Honey, I'm going to be home a little late. Don't be up too late, dear. Love you, Mom. I stare at my phone in disbelief. I was about to ask her why she told me to come downstairs when she wasn't even home, but then I noticed something. The text message that she sent me wasn't there, but that was impossible. I didn't delete the message. I then received another text message. It was from Britney. I had a lot of fun tonight. You did a lot better than the others, but I am sorry to say that. This is goodbye. I was dumbfounded. Did she just break up with me? I sent her a text message asking what she meant. When I hit send, that's when I noticed it. Just above her message to me was the text from Mom, asking me to come down. My body froze when I heard the chime of the phone from behind me, but I dared not look. All I could do was stare at the lit candle in front of me when I felt 4 long claws slowly grip my shoulder. I turned my head to see wide amber eyes